Okay. Any questions? We are probably this is the last class. If you have any questions, you can ask, or we can go ahead. We can you can ask later too.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the Kruskal diagram, R equal to 2m, there are two lines for R equal to 2m, and in the book it is mentioned that one corresponds to t equals to infinity and other corresponds to t equals to minus infinity. Why this is so?
Okay. R is equal to 2m is a one condition. There is also condition as a u greater than 0 and v greater than 0. So that means they are ingoing and outgoing light. So this leads to separate lines. R is equal to 2m is only one dimension. So you also have a other one, which is a u and v, which is outgoing light and ingoing light. So one corresponding to goes to infinity in the positive direction, and the other corresponds to infinity in the negative direction. So that is what it makes this. You can think as if that is too confusing, you think as some r is equal to constant, where a particle going in circular orbit, then it is going from minus infinity to plus infinity. That means the particle is keep going around that particle on the circular orbit from minus infinity to plus infinity. So that is what it says. It is both space and time is there in the coordinate system. Now, when you see r is equal to 2m, both becomes that parabola becomes line going from 0, and that is why one limit corresponds to minus infinity, other corresponds to plus infinity. So that is space-time diagram. It concludes both mixed up now in that coordinate system. Is that okay?
Sir, actually, I'm not getting how the t is becoming infinity.
So the t becomes infinity. Let us look at the exact expression. Yeah, so r is equal to constant expression. When you look at that, there is no t there, right? There is t is completely eliminated.
Yes,
So that is one of these. The other thing is that you have a u and u square v square, right? That is when you look at that. Now you go back to the one of the regions. If you prefer any one of them, that is fine. Whatever bit you have a straight line coming from u is equal to, let's say r is equal to 2m, or very close to it. That is where the square root of term becomes somewhat 0. But leaving out that term, you have a cos uh, hyperbolic t and sine hyperbolic t. Okay, so that will go to that go to one will go to infinity, and the other goes to minus infinity. You can see u is equal to constant and v is equal to constant. So that is what the line is about. You go back to you have Narlikar's book. They are given the equation for u and v, so that let me write down that equation. Is a bit longish equation. U is equal to r.
So your screen is invisible. So you are muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, so it got muted. Sorry. So this is an expression. Now you have this condition which is says that r minus 2g whatever into e power r by 2gm. This is equal to u square minus v square, right? So you can play a trick here. You can simply say that u is equal to u square minus v square into cos hyperbolic t by 4 gm. Now you have the t here coming in. So t going to minus infinity would and plus infinity, both would make u is equal to 0. One goes to 0 and other goes to infinity, right?
Okay, sir, got it.
One goes to 0, t is equal to 0, u is equal to 1. The other one, when t is equal to infinity, you have one blows up, u goes to infinity. You can do the other one, which has a sine hyperbolic. And from that, you can show basically they are a straight line which is going through 0. Is it okay?
Yes, sir, I got it.
Oh. Any other questions? Okay, so today it is not like a tutorial. You don't have to write everything and submit. The reason for that is I'm going to do some of this cosmology stuff. It would have been good to write it, but I assume there is a lot of things coming in between, maybe not necessary to write. So let's start with the, again, Copernican principle. So this, what is this? There is 2p or 1p? It's not Copernican principle. So what it basically says that every point in the universe is same. There is no specific significance to any of these points. So we, giving out the philosophy, we will look at the mathematically what does it means, mathematics of Copernican principle. First one is, it says, let's call it 1. Okay, every point is isotropic. Every point is isotropic or rotational invariant. That means you would not see difference, any difference when you stand in one point and rotate about. So that is a rotational invariant at every point, not just at one point, every point. So because universe looks same or is same at every point, this condition should satisfy. So that is the first of the condition. The second of the condition, it says that every point is same, means you should be able to move from one place to another place. You should be not figure out the difference. That mathematically is called the homogeneity. That means a translational invariant. There is translational invariance. at every point and every direction. Of course, it is possible to show that the isotropy at every point is basically corresponds to this. One has to go through the enough mathematics to that. It is generally based on the space-time symmetry. One can see, but we will not go detail into that. You can simply assume that both these conditions satisfies, and this basically means maximally symmetry. Maximal symmetry. There is no more symmetry possible if you include these two conditions in your space. So it's spatially it is true. Not time does not come in here because we have not said anything about time. That's a separate thing which needs some discussion. So we know that maximal symmetry space we have looked at. So we know that there are three cases which satisfies this maximal symmetries, which are basically space of constant curvature. We have seen that in the case of r is equal to 0, that is a flat. Okay. R is equal to plus constant, a positive constant, which is a sphere, and then R is equal to the Riemann curvature. Okay, R is Riemann. Negative constant, which we call is an open sphere or the sphere with the negative curvature. You can see that this Copernican principle is valid for all these space-time, all these spaces. You can take a flat space with the Cartesian coordinate system. You know that there is no difference. Every point here is same. You can move in any direction. You can sit in any position. Every place is equal to every other place in flat space-time. So it naturally satisfies the condition required for the Copernican principle. Now you can see that the sphere also has the same property. When you look at the sphere, you can basically take the sphere and rotate at every point. That is basically means that the isotropy at every point, that condition is satisfied. And on a two sphere, we have seen that you can move along any curve. It's not going to any great circle. So there is no difference. So you can move or translate from one point to another point on the sphere, which has a positive curvature, and that makes no difference to that because it is a symmetric at every point. So the sphere also does satisfies the Copernican principle. Because open sphere is difficult to imagine, but you can see that the metric element is something very similar to the closed sphere, and from that mathematically you can show that all the property which is satisfied from the closed sphere also satisfied by the open sphere, except that the curvature, instead of a positive, it is a negative number. So these three are the space-times which satisfies this condition. So you can see that in the case of all these metric can be written, k is equal to 0 in the Cartesian coordinate system for two sphere, two dimension I am writing. 3 dimension you can easily generalize it. There is no problem. -1, I could say +1 or whatever. dl square can be written as a r square d theta square plus sine square theta d phi square, and k is equal to -1 is equal to dl square is equal to r square d theta square plus sine hyperbolic d phi square. So you have these three So this is essentially, we have to incorporate metric space, spatial metric should be of this form to satisfy the Copernican principle. In 3 dimensions, to incorporate all this, you can simply write dl square as some factor a square dr square by 1 minus k square r square plus r square into d square theta plus sine square theta d phi square. So in principle, this metric gives you a 3-dimensional space. When k is equal to 0, it is a flat. When k is equal to 1, it is a 3-sphere. There are various ways to write the metric on a 3-sphere. You can simply generalize what we have it here, or you can simply write it like this. Both is valid. This is a simple appealing case where you can write down, or in this case, you can simply switch from one to another by this. But in this case, you can switch from a positive sphere to negative sphere by changing this. You can relate these two and generalize, have a S3. That is what essentially needs. But for physicists, one prefer to have this, and these 3 are corresponding to the negative sphere. This is what should be the spatial metric, corresponds to the cosmological solution. So cosmological solution should have a homogeneity and isotropy at each point that will restrict your metric to be of this form. Now time, of course, time, there is nothing to say here. You could simply take dt square to be 1, g00 to be 1, and then you can have metric given by this as your very a of a is some parameter. Now that depends a lot on what is a, and based on what is a cosmological model which you are building, a can decide what you should contain and what should not contain. So at this stage, various philosophy and science get mixed up. Even the greatest do their own fault. There are 2 questions to be asked here. Universe should be evolving with the time, or universe should be static. So this is a long standing debate. Newton himself knew, based on his model of gravity, universe would look somewhat unstable, and it should have a infinite size. Universe, if it is finite and if it is a static, then it would simply collapse, and that we know it becomes like a spherical like star. So only one way to overcome this problem is to make the universe infinite, and that is what Newton did. And he was somewhat uncomfortable, I believe, with all that model, and he kept quiet, did not talk much about it. So that is what the beauty, he knew when to keep quiet, and he did not talk much about it at all. Now the question remained lingering, that whether universe should be infinite or constant. One of the major this thing in the supporting the finite universe came from the fact what is known as Olber's paradox. Olber paradox, which assumed that, let's say that a universe has, at that time it was not known that a universe is made up of galaxies. It doesn't matter. Now let's say that the universe is made up of star, which is uniformly distributed and of infinite size. There is one problem here. Let's say that you are at the center of universe. Doesn't matter because it's an infinite universe. Every point is a center. Now let's look at this one cone you take and look at this. The number of stars, let's take a small element, and number of stars you can count here. This would go to the volume of this shell into number density. So that one can easily calculate. That would be something like 4 pi something r square and d omega. All that you can calculate. Now you see that the star also goes as a 1 by r. It's each point source would go whose amplitude, whatever intensity or luminosity would go down as a 1 by r square, and this leads to the compensation of the distance to the volume of the number of this thing present. So what happens is that when you integrate it over a larger and larger surface, larger and larger r you go, and you would find that this integral would blow up. That means that the intensity, when accumulated over the entire this surface, as r goes to large number, this would blow up. That means every point in the sky should be bright if there are uniformly light source present in the sky. So this somewhat did not go well with the observation. Night sky indeed was not so bright, and individual stars did appear in the background of dark sky. That means there is a problem with this uniform infinite sky. The universe somehow have to be finite because of this consideration. So Olbert paradox, which tends to, after that, people tends to believe that the sky will have to be at least, the universe have to be finite. Is there any question regarding this? It's fairly straightforward. You look at the how does the surface element on a sphere goes in, which has a r square, and the luminosity, which is also calculated by the same principle, that you take a surface falls off r square, both compensate, and then it lives with the number of stars present in the each shell. So that what leads to the blowing of the integral. So that has to be finite. So this is not a coincidence. In a way, it is how the light falls off over the volume, over the surface as a wavefront progresses, is the same way as the number of stars which is added to this. Okay, any questions regarding this? No? Okay. So let me go ahead and then say that because of Olbert paradox, universe has to be finite. So one tends to believe that the factor A has to be finite in this case. Universe has to be finite. Now let's simply go ahead and see what happens. Universe, this is a metric, and then solve it using Einstein's equation. Of course, you can, if you were in the third year, you could have used Newton's equation. Now you are doing GR course, so you know the theory of gravity is Einstein's theory, so you have to find out the Einstein's equation. And the source can be perfect fluid. There is no problem. You assume sorry, this I forgot to take my medicines. So we have to use this line element, solve the Einstein's equation, use the perfect fluid as a source, and then figure out whether we can have a universe model which goes as per this. Line element. Okay, line element is simple. ds square is equal to dt minus a square, which is constant, dr square 1 minus kr square. K can be plus 1, minus 1, or 0 based on your model. Universe is a flat or sphere with a positive or negative curvature. Now you got to calculate Einstein's tensor for this. Let me go ahead and do it. So when k is equal to 0, there is no problem. Einstein equation EAB is equal to 0. That means, universe is flat and there is no matter, nothing. You have a whole empty universe, deserted universe, no one present, not even ghost. That is what empty universe means, flat universe. You cannot have a perfect fluid added to this. It has to be 0. Its density has to be 0. So rho is equal to 0, P is equal to 0. Everything is empty. There's nothing left out. Now K is equal to 1, you add. That is a famous model called the Einstein universe. So GAB in this case takes the value of diagonal value of 3 by a square, 1 by a square, 1 by a square, and 1 by a square. I think I missed a negative sign somewhere. Okay. Now, if this has to be perfect fluid, then we know that this has to be a rho. This has to be rho. The perfect fluid TAB can be written as rho plus P to the UAUB minus G times what it should be, GAB into P. So this basically means that the TAB would be rho minus P and minus P. So this is what it should be. I think then there is no minus here. So this should be plus. So these two have to be equal. There is a solution which you can obtain. Rho is equal to 3P. No, rho is equal, what is that? Oh no, rho is equal to one by 3a square. P is equal to minus 1 by a. This is a consistent solution. Now, of course, you would ask, what is this? How can pressure be negative? Of course, that is what bothered to Einstein. Static universe. If you calculate for the next one too, k is equal to minus 1, then you would simply get the reverse of this. So we could simply say that k is equal to plus or minus 1 here. So you can have a plus or minus, plus or minus, plus or minus, plus or minus. So this should solve the problem probably. No, it doesn't solve the problem. This is always positive. Okay, so this should be. So this is what you would get, and then you see that the problem doesn't solve. You have to bring in something which is not clearly goes well. So Einstein said that, okay, Einstein was very fond of static universe. So he said that, okay, no problem. My theory needs a correction. So instead of saying that the GAB is equal to TAB, there is some degree of freedom here to add a constant of integral without changing the divergence of Einstein tensor would be still satisfies goes to 0 if you add a lambda times delta AB, and that is what he said, that okay, let's make this would be my theory now. It is not just this term, I need to add some more such that whatever this problem of negative coming and all can be got rid of by simply adding a lambda to be equal to, lambda is equal to 3 by a square, and then everything would be all right. So this is how he artificially tried to construct the universe, which does not expand or contract, which has a static nature. So this was as per his philosophy, not as per the scientific philosophy. So he was hell-bent on having the static universe in which A is constant here, and that led to the negative pressure and negative density or something similar. And at that time, that was not accepted. Currently, people go well with the negative pressure and all that thing. So as cosmologist doesn't really care whether pressure is positive or negative. They build up some model which allows all these things. But at that time, Einstein added this constant and then said that, well, this is how the universe should behave. Well, universe has its own plan. It doesn't follow any of the theory. The theories have to make the theory such that it can observe this thing. So here comes a very important observation, which is called the Hubble's law. So Hubble was an American astronomer who had a very big telescope at that time. In early 20s, he had a 100-inch telescope available to him, and there is a smaller one, Hooker telescope and Mount Wilson Observatory. That was a 5-meter aperture telescope, which he was looking after, and most of the observation he has done. So he was very interested to observe the galaxies. So he was trying to study them, which was known as a Messier object at that time called nebulas. There was no clear known differences between these. So he was basically looking at them. And then what he was doing was he was looking at the galaxies, observing stars in them, trying to see its redshift. So it's not a very easy experiment to do. You take the telescope, look at some of the galaxies, take their spectra, okay, then you can see some lines which corresponds to absorption of certain gas present, and then you can compare it with the terrestrial lines corresponding to the same gas, and they would have shifted a little bit. And then you can measure this shift between the terrestrial and the galactic, farther galactic observation. And then you see the redshift, which you call 1 plus Z is equal to delta lambda by lambda. So that is what he observed. But he also observed what is called the distance. Okay, this is the trickiest part. Observing the redshift is not an issue. He had a big telescope, he had a good spectroscope, and then he could simply measure the redshift. But the problem was distance. Astrophysically, it's very difficult to measure the distance because there is no proper candle. So one of them is used at what is known as standard candles. You know that the luminosity falls off as R square, and if you know what is the real brightness of the object where it stands, and then where you are sitting here and observing, then you comparing that, you can figure out what would be the distance between this and observer and the emitter. But unfortunately, there is no candles. Each stars could have its own brightness, and it is not clear how, though there is a model, it is impossible to say for definitely this is what it is. In such case, there is something interesting happens. There is stars which oscillate, what is known as a stellar oscillation. It is one of the stars which is called the RR Lyrae. You can theoretically model the stellar oscillation. Then you could see that the amplitude of the star's brightness with the time, which goes through a nice oscillation, and about the mean value, and this between these two, you can figure out what is the exact amplitude of the oscillation, and that can be modeled very cleanly to the brightness of the star itself, to the mean value of the, given the amplitude of the oscillation, you can calculate the mean intensity emitted by the stars, and that could act as a standard candle. And Hubble used this approach to measure the distance to the star. Once he has a distance and the redshift or the velocity, Doppler, you can associate it with the Doppler field, and then you can have 1 plus z is equal to delta v by v. Then he plotted the velocity and the distance, and then interestingly, he fits a straight line through it. This is the various points. One is a distance and the other is a velocity. And then the slope is called the Hubble constant, or h naught. So this says that because of the redshift, all the galaxies are going away, okay, from us. The blue shift means they would have come to us. So you would have expected in general some to come, some to go if there is a random motion. But however, it turns out that it's all systematic and they are all going away. That means we are the center of the universe. Of course, we are the center of universe as per Copernican principle. Every point in the universe is a center itself. And with that understanding, you would see that the universe is expanding from where we stand. So this is what the significant change happened in the cosmology, and the Einstein static universe did not go well with this. So what we need to do change is that simply introduce that A, which comes here as a function of time, because that universe is either expanding or contracting, if you like it. Let's say that it is the homogeneous and isotropic. That's important. That still remains. And then let's say it is expanding. Then A would be an expanding function. And then this would explain your all the thing which you needed for the universe. So this is a line element which is called the Friedmann Robertson Walker metric. These are the people who are contributed to this: Friedmann, Robertson, and Walker. So the Robertson is a cosmologist, relativistic cosmologist, and then once you have this metric, you can plug it in and compute the Einstein's equation. So Einstein's equation turns out to be not so cumbersome, because you see that the symmetry is completely overwhelming here. It's actually maximally symmetric, and then you can compute G00 is equal to 3 by a square into k plus a dot. A dot is a time derivative of a. So this is the one equation. It should be actually 8 pi g. I cannot use k again because there is a k is a curvature, which we have already used. Kappa and k on a LaTeX it would look fine, but when you type it, when I write from hand, I don't think you can able to distinguish between my kappa and k. So I decided to put 8 pi g k explicitly and then do k retain. I could use different symbol, but it is a standard used in cosmology. K as a curvature, a as a size of or a scale factor in the universe, and then you can see that this is the first of the Einstein's equation. Now let us go ahead. Let's compute the. You can compute it. It is not that difficult. You are already expert, I believe, in computing all this. It takes time, but it is doable. Or you could ask Mathematica to do it. In any case, I will not derive it here. In addition, this is a last class. I don't want to spend doing algebra. So this is the next equation. So the next three equations are actually same. So you can say this also equal to G22, this also equal to G33. Of diagonal elements are also 0. So this essentially is the Einstein's equation for a expanding universe where the scale factor A depends on time, and then it it's directly related to rho, density of the perfect fluid filled in the universe, and the pressure in the pressure of this thing. Given the relation between equation of state, as we have done for the star, density and the pressure, you can integrate this equation and construct all the cosmological model. So this is one which is a major dominating equation. So let's look at this a little bit more carefully. There is no enough space here, so let's simply pinch it off, and my hands are not steady, but that doesn't matter. Okay, these two equations. Actually, when we did the stellar solution, we did construct another equation, which is was cumbersome, but we had to take that equation. So this is a conservation of energy momentum tensor. So this equation have to be satisfied. This equation actually, there is another way to say this equation. This equation also says that GAB is equal to 0. These two equations are same. So it is possible to get the same equation. This is an advantage of cosmology, is that it is a homogeneous and isotropic. So one would simply take this equation. Okay, this equation, differentiate it with respect to time once, that is d by dt of G00. This we do, then we get all that thing on the right hand side and left hand side. You see that there is a double dot term is here, and this you combine with this equation, then we can write that the whole thing as a rho dot plus 3 into A dot by A into rho plus P is equal to 0. So it turns out that this is the same equation you can get, and that is what we have. It is not necessary to consider these two equations. You could say either this and this, or you could say this and this, whichever looks more appealing, or you can take this and this, whichever you want. So there are three equations, any two of them you can take, and those equations called the Friedmann equation. I give you 5 minutes break here. What I want you to do is differentiate this G00 here, and then combine double derivative of A double dot coming here, replace it from this quantity, and get this equation explicitly. Okay, so that is, I'm giving a break of 5 minutes for that. I'll get back in 5 minutes. I need some breathers. So you can do it and let me know how it comes about. Let me take a break for 5 minutes. You will do your problem. Okay, so 5 minutes up. Any problems? Getting the equations for the derivative of the density connecting to the pressure and density. Any problems? Differentiate the first, substitute the second. Anybody not getting it? I mean, anybody tried and not getting it? If you didn't try and didn't get it, it's a different matter. Okay, so it looks like we are all in silence. So let's go ahead and say that what we are getting essentially is two equations which represents the equation of evolving the universe. So let me see, where did I, this one. Okay, so I'm going to take a fresh page and write down the two of these equations. So A double dot A is called the scale factor of the universe, is equal to 8 pi g by 3 into rho minus k by a square. So this is the first of the equation. Instead of writing second derivative equation, you write rho dot is equal to 3a dot by a into rho plus p is equal to 0. So this is the second equation, and these two equations are called the Friedmann equation. So it's actually not both are Friedmann equation, but you can call them. The first one is the Friedmann equation, and second one is called the fluid equation, where we have got it from Einstein's equation itself, but you can also get it from the divergence of TAB is equal to 0, and that is why it is essentially called the fluid equation. So this one is a Friedmann equation, and this is called the fluid equation. So both are having the same short name, so we can call them together the Friedmann equation, how the universe evolves. So we need to know the relation rho and p, that is the equation of state of universe, and we can solve for the k. K is equal to 0 is a flat, and k is equal to plus 1 is a sphere, and k is equal to minus 1 is a open sphere. So this is what we have, three of the equation which describes the current cosmological model or the standard model. One can also introduce a cosmological constant. You can put in, it is not going to create a great difficulty to add a cosmological equation to this equation. So you know that cosmological constant is a simply constant added to the universe. So that is why it is not going to do a great deal of trouble when you add it. So you can simply add it here, you can say it is lambda by 3, where lambda is cosmological constant, and that is what which gives you is a cosmological constant added to this equation, and that is what we have. Let's currently not worry about the cosmological constant. We will look at this equation a little bit more carefully. Leave off the cosmological constant, and we see that we need to have various models of the universe. Let's start with the constant. Okay, k we can put to not k, flat universe. K is equal to 0. Then you simply have this equation get much simplified. And there is another interesting aspect here, h, which is called A0 by A, is called the Hubble parameter. Now, one of the biggest confusion in cosmology you would see, it's not really confusion. What you call is a problem of nomenclature. So A is a function of time. A dot by A is also a function of time. So that is what is defined as a Hubble parameter. Hubble constant H naught is A dot by A evaluated at current epoch. That is what we have, which usually called T is equal to T naught. T naught is a current time, cosmological time. So this is what it gives you, current cosmological time or current epoch, which is called T naught. So the H naught at T naught, current time, is called the Hubble constant. So that is what we have. So you can see that Hubble constant is basically ET A by A. That is what we call. So you can have a coordinate system aligned such a way that we can define what we call is dV as A dot by A by dr. So let's look at the line element again. Where the line element is here. Now this depends on time. K is equal to 0. If you take, you see that the dr is simply measures some kind of a flat distance, and we can assume that since it is a homogeneous and isotropic universe, theta and phi motion doesn't really care. All it matters is the radial distance. So we can see that what happens when you have radial motion, then you can have exactly a dV. This relation can be simply written down, and then that which shows that the V is equal to H naught into R, or distance. So this is what is the basic way of defining Hubble constant. It's actually a cheating. We are not actually doing anything here. We are just calling with the suitable names and redefining something, and then you have Hubble law coming out this. So you have your ds square, which is currently given as a dt square minus a square into dr square for flat metric. Similarly, you can do other case too, but this is a basic idea that you have written Hubble law in a convenient form, and the Hubble parameter is what you have is defined here. Now we can try to solve this equation. Some of these equations which are very easy to solve. Some of them are not so easy to solve. So we'll, as an example, we will solve only for the k is equal to 0 case, just to get an impression of how the various solution look like. Let me copy this again. There is a n number of time we need to probably write this. Okay, so here we can again assume k to be 0, and then we have this equation. We need the same name is also not necessary. Okay, let's get rid of this. Okay, so we need an equation of state. Let us use something very simple. We use an equation of state of dust. Dust, you remember, acceleration is equal to 0. This acceleration is not this a. So let me write down acceleration is equal to 0, and then p also becomes 0. So that is a dust. Dust is equal to, implies that the p is equal to 0, and then we can see that we have two equations which are fairly straightforward. So this is what is for k is equal to 0, p is equal to 0, dust solution. So now we can see, look at this expression, and then we play around with it. We take this equation, play around with it. We write like this: a cube d by dt of rho into a cube is equal to 0. Yeah, nothing much done. You can see that it is just smartly rewriting this equation into this. This is what cosmologists are good about. They are very smart rewriting the equation. So you got this equation, and then it simply says that the rho is proportional to 1 by a cube, because this is 0, this is constant, and then rho is proportional to a cube. This is not surprise. You see that the a is a scale factor, and the volume goes as a cube. This implies volume is proportional to a cube, and the density is proportional to 1 by volume, and that is why rho go as a cube. So this is consistent with what we think normal physics do. Astrophysics or the cosmology itself behaves in a consistent manner with that. That means that when the dust is there, when the model k is equal to 0, it simply expands, density goes down with the expansion. Nothing seriously happens, and we can further solve this. We can write a dot square as 8 pi g by some 3, and we can introduce a constant rho naught, and then a. So this is what you can do with this equation. We can simply redefine rho naught in a convenient manner. There is no big deal about this. So once you do that, you see that the solution a of t is equal to t by t naught to the power 2 by 3. Okay, so this is a case which we would get. Simply substitute this equation here, and then you can get this equation here, and then you can simply solve this. How do we solve this? Well, this is a guess, a solution by guess. You can simply say that a is equal to t to the power n. Of course, t not needed, otherwise dimensionally you cannot adjust it. and then you can simply find out n. This is called the solving power series method. You don't consider full series, just individual term you can calculate, and then you get this equation, and you can see that the dusty universe model goes as a t to the power 2 by 3, and you can also calculate density. We have calculated A, we can calculate density. How does it propagate? So it is a rho naught t square by t square. It is goes as a cube, a cube, and this is how you solve the cosmological models. So you have a which is Hubble constant, not Hubble constant, Hubble parameter, a dot by a. In this case, you can simply see that it is 2/3 of t. Now, what does it mean? Hubble constant means if you start with a is equal to 0, and currently t is equal to t is equal to t naught, then h naught basically is equal to 2 by 3 naught, 2 by 3 t naught. That means from this we can calculate the age of universe. T naught is equal to 2/3 of h naught. Once you can calculate a Hubble constant, you can also get the age of the universe. So this is how you get the age of universe. The Hubble constant is a very important cosmological parameter, which also gives us the age of the universe based on the model. In this, we have assumed the rather very simple model where we have taken the dust and we have taken the k is equal to 0 model. We can also use other model. So before going into any other model, you have any questions regarding this? This is going a bit fast. I know we have to, I have messed up with the timing. So we missed some classes. So let us see. Any problem? Any question about this? The dusty model of the universe?
So, what does T naught represent?
T naught is just a constant, which comes in the integration here. You don't want to, you see that otherwise it becomes difficult to solve this equation. You can see this is a solution. It just to make the dimensionally appropriate. That is how you do it. So T naught, you can set T naught anything you want. The idea is that when T is equal to T naught, A is equal to whatever A naught you can put, or in other words, if you don't want that, you can say rho is equal to rho naught you can put. So, but you see that H naught, Hubble constant, is equal to A dot by A at T is equal to T naught. That is the current epoch of universe. If you take, then you see that if T naught is a current epoch, T is equal to T naught, then you can see Hubble constant is essentially related to the age of the universe, current age of the universe. T naught become 3 by T naught. You can choose T naught to be any constant at which you know the value of A, but we don't know what happened in the past. We can do measurement only at the current time. So only observation we have A value or H naught value at a T is equal to T naught. So T naught is a constant of integration basically, so that you can choose appropriately based on observational value. In cosmology, it is not possible to go back and observe. It is possible to some extent, but not always. So conveniently, T naught to be taken current age of universe, and then we can relate to H naught. Any other questions? So the same thing we can do with another interesting model, The another interesting model is in this case star you can construct with all these things. What we did not do is the radiation. Radiation means, let's assume that the universe is filled with the radiation. That means you have a pressure related to density by rho by 3p. Actually, c square taken 1. You might have come across this in statistical mechanics. You have a perfect fluid, or when it moves with that the speed of light, whose rest mass energy and the momentum becomes very similar scale, then you have what is known as a radiation, or light satisfies this condition. If light is pressed into as a perfect fluid, then you would have a equation of state rho is equal to 3p. That is what the condition is, or p is equal to rho by 3. I believe you are familiar with this. It must have come in statistical mechanics, and then we can again solve these equations, these two equations.
I didn't catch that. Could you try again?
You did not catch? Okay.
Is there something else I can help with?
No, go to sleep.
Z, Z, Z. Z, Z, Z. Z, Z, Z. Wow. That's not as easy as it looks.
Okay, sorry about that. Siri is getting little hyper. So we got to solve for the radiation. Again, for convenience, we can take the flat model just for mathematical simplicity. Otherwise, you can solve for other models too. So Siri, you know what is Hubble constant? Let's try what does Siri know about cosmology. Siri, you know what is Hubble constant?
Here's what I found.
Can you read it out? P is equal to 3 rho. This is the equation which we need to satisfy. Let's follow the same trick what we have done earlier. So we simply do this in the fluid equation, or the second of the Friedmann equation, and then simply try to solve it. We can see what happens. So we substitute that, we get a rho dot is equal to 4 A dot by A, this is Hubble parameter, into rho is equal to 0. So you can see again, we can use the same trick to integrate this out, and then we see that rho goes as a 1 by A power 4. That means that it goes much faster than this. We have seen the dust going as A power 3. So there is a explanation is not maybe as simple as what we do in the case of dust. We have seen the density goes as 1 by A cube, but here because it is a radiation, it goes as a 1 by A4. That is what the equation states. Now we can substitute this equation in this, and also that is what we got in this. Okay, and then substitute and integrate this out. Rho is there, and we simply substitute for rho and get the equation. A of t can be solved as t by t naught to the power half. in this case. Okay, so that is how the A propagate. Earlier case we have seen in the case of radiation, in the case of dust, it is 2/3. In this case, it is a half. So this goes faster now, and then other one goes slower. So we can have a density also written in terms of time. We can write it as rho naught by a power 4, and then rho naught into t naught square by t square. So if the universe were filled with the radiation only, then you can see how it expands. The age of universe would be different than what we have seen. So you see that the universe could have a dust, universe could have a combination of dust and the radiation. But if you have a combination of them, eventually the density of the radiation would fall off far more rapidly than the dust. So if you have a universe which is starting from very small age, which combined with the radiation and dust, you will see that at the higher age, when you go, the dust goes slower, and the density of the radiation falls off much rapidly, and the universe slowly switches from the dust goes, radiation density becomes much small, and it becomes the radiation density becomes small, and it becomes the matter dominant. So you can assume that the early universe, when A is small, naturally the radiation would be more dominating than the matter. So this comes from this equation. You can put A small, it goes as a, not A4, it goes as a power 4. And you can see this goes as only A power q. So when A is very small, so the radiation naturally dominate the universe. That is why we call the early universe is filled with the radiation. And as time propagates, radiation density falls off much more rapidly. And then you have basically matter dominates and takes over. And that is what we call the radiation to matter domination. Switching happens. And then current universe is assumed to be a matter dominated. And when you compare, when the early age of universe, you will have a radiation dominated universe. That is what the Big Bang cosmology says. This also says that the universe would have started when t is very small. A was also very small. When A is 0, you can also take t to be 0. And then you see that the universe had a beginning. It is not a steady state universe as Einstein wanted. It had a beginning, and it would propagate as we have seen. So these are the conclusion about the universe we can make simply by k is equal to 0. And you can also do k is equal to non-zero term, k is equal to minus or plus. Both will have a very similar kind of a behavior. And you can even add a cosmological constant to add up all the things. So that is what the current cosmologists do. So they assume universe to have a cosmological constant too. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so I would stop here covering anything new. It's a basic idea of cosmology where a scale factor which determine, this is called the relativistic cosmology, where you solve Einstein's equation and get the cosmological model. There is a whole branch of physical cosmology where you relate all this to observed quantity, like what we have done in the last few cases, where we take the different density, different curvature, and check how it matches with observation. what is the Hubble constant, how do you fit various parameters and all that. That is called the physical cosmology. So since being this is a last class, if there is an overall question regarding the previous or relating the course or relating anything else, maybe I would take them for next 10-15 minutes. No questions? Are not still recovered from the Big Bang? No questions? Okay. So let me stop here then. Don't want to cover anything new. So this should be enough. We did not manage to cover a lot of cosmology. GR parts in bits and pieces. It is okay. So let me stop here and we'll see. There is, I guess, exam timetable is not yet up. So it will be sometime in the first week of May, I believe. Okay, so let me stop here.